Radyo Katipunan, 87.9 FM. Radyo Katipunan, 87.9 FM.
And there was another drive-by
The fire we reported at the old fire hall is still burning out.
Do you sometimes feel confused or lost in the complications and complexities of life? Do you feel drained, listless, or exhausted from the daily burdens and responsibilities? Why not seek our campus ministers on air every Tuesday from 2 to 3 in the afternoon? Listen to our counselors from the Loyola School's Campus Ministry Office as they ground our lives in our faith, in our school's spiritual tradition. Campus Ministers on Air. Be guided, be inspired, be blessed. Listen to our Campus Ministers on Air. Radyo Katipunan. News, insights, inspiration. Radyo Katipunan. Down from the hill and down to the world. Radyo Katipunan. The voice of the Blue Eagle. Tara na't simulan ng inyong umaga sa mga magagandang refleksyon tungkol sa ating buhay at pananampalataya. Kasama sina Cardinal Luis Antonio Tagle, Father J. Boy Gonzales at Father Nono Alfonso ng Kapisanan ni Jesus, Father Cali Llamado ng Manila Cathedral at Binibining Risa Singson Kaupeng ng Light of Jesus Community dito sa Kapit Pandasal sa Radyo Katipunan 87.9 FM.
Dakilang San Francisco. Magandang araw po sa inyo, kape at pandasal na po tayo. Ito po si Cardinal Chito Tagle. Sa araw na ito, ginugunita natin ang dakilang santo ng Assisi, si San Francisco. Nangungusap pa rin siya sa atin. May mensahe siya sa mundong nababalot ng hidwaan at pandemya. Wika niya, Panginoon, gawin mo akong daan ng iyong kapayapaan. Suriin natin ang bawat kaisipan, balak, salita at gawain. Dala ko ba'y pagkamuhi o pagkakasundo? Wika niya, kapuri-puri ka o Panginoon sa iyong mga nilikha. Bawat nilikha ng Diyos ay mahalaga. Magkakaugnay ang lahat ng nilikha. Suriin natin ang ating estilo ng buhay. Tagawasak ba ako ng kalikasan o mabuting tagapamahala? Kapatid ba ang turing ko sa kapwa-tao o kasangkapan lamang? O Diyos, magpadala ka pa ng mga kawangis ni San Francisco. Amen.
Radyo, 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 Katipunan, radyo, Katipunan, radyo, Katipunan, radyo, 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 Katipunan, radyo, Katipunan. The voice of the Blue Eagle, kami di mapipigil sa pagbabalitang tumpak at tama. Buhay atin sa labas ng eskwela, ating ibibida lahat ng eskwela. Radyo, radyo, Katipunan, radyo, radyo, Katipunan, radyo, Katipunan, Kawal ni Ignacio, Katipunero sugo, todo sa kayot, punong at tulong, lipad na Blue Eagle, galing hiding at tigil.
The Jesuit Hour. Get to know the Jesuits. Discover their spirituality, their history, their ministries. The Jesuit Hour. Anything Jesuit, everything Jesuit. The Jesuit Hour.
Good morning mga Katipuneros! Welcome to our show here at Radyo Katipunan 87.9 FM, the Ateneo Campus Radio. This is the Jesuit Hour and I'm your host, Father Nono Alfonso S.J. Good morning po sa inyong lahat and welcome to our show on this feast day of Saint Francis of Assisi, patron saint of the environment. And because of that, we will talk about the environment. Hingi po tayo ng updates, lalo na sa ating environmental movement. Diba? Dapat kasali tayo dyan. Diba? Dapat may ginagawa tayo para sa environment, para sa inang kalikasan. We will introduce later kung sino po yung ating guest speaker. Of course, he is well known. But before we head to our discussion, magdasal muna po tayo, and our prayer is from Laudato Si, the environmental encyclical of Pope Francis. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. All-powerful God, you are present in the whole universe and in the smallest of your creatures. You embrace with your tenderness all that exists. Pour out upon us the power of your love, that we may protect life and beauty. Fill us with peace, that we may live as brothers and sisters, harming no one. O God of the poor, help us to rescue the abandoned and forgotten of this earth, so precious in your eyes. Bring healing to our lives, that we may protect the world and not prey on it, that we may sow beauty, not pollution and destruction. Touch the hearts of those who look only for gain, at the expense of the poor and the earth. Teach us to discover the worth of each thing, to be filled with awe and contemplation, to recognize that we are profoundly united with every creature as we journey towards your infinite light. We thank you for being with us each day. Encourage us, we pray, in our struggle for justice, love, and peace. Amen. What a beautiful prayer. Yan po ang prayer ni Pope Francis sa kanyang encyclical Laudato Si. Now, let me introduce our resource person for this morning. He used to be the president of the Ateneo de Manila University. Now he is with the Manila Observatory, its director, and also one of the chaplains of the Loyola schools. Please welcome to the show our beloved Father Jose Ramon Vilarin, SJ. Good morning, Father Jett.
Hi, good morning, Father Nono, at magandang umaga rin sa lahat ng sumusubaybay sa Radyo Katipunan sa araw na ito ng kapistahan ni San Francisco de Assis.
Yes, Father, my first question is, how is life now that you are Citizen Kane? Citizen Jett Vilarin.
Ay, masarap, masaya, at nagpapasalamat nga ako na destino ako dito sa Manila Observatory at nagtuturo muli. It was something that I was doing before I was missioned to administration. So I'm glad to be back.
Don't you miss the perks of the position of the president?
Oo, may perks, syempre. We miss those perks, pero I don't also miss the the burdens.
The burden.
The responsibilities.
So we pray for Father Bobby.
Oh yes, I pray for him every day.
So Father Jett, okay, next question, katatapos lang po ng Super Typhoon Karding dito sa ating bansa. At grabe yung pinsala, of course, north of Luzon.
Mhm.
Pero kasabay nun po sa US of A, sa Florida, grabe rin, sa Puerto
Mhm.
Rico.
Mhm.
So explain to us, parang grabe itong mga super typhoons na to. Nag-invento pa sila ng mga categories, di ba? Category 5 na parang nung bata ako, kasi po, typhoon belt kami, yung Bicol.
Mhm.
So I grew up Every month may bagyo kami, ano, sanay na kami, ano. Pero not this strong, ano, yung mga bagyo. Ngayon tinatawag na silang super typhoons. I don't remember typhoons being called super during my time. So, Father, bakit?
Bakit? Naku. Sige, konting science.
Mhm.
Well, dati-rati kasi, isipin na lang natin halimbawa yung ating atmosphere ay isang lalagyan at may energy dyan.
Mhm.
Dati-rati, sumisingaw yung energy. Hindi naman lahat naiipon. So, nakakasingaw pa siya outer space, lumalabas. So, hindi gaanong mainit. Ngayon, dahil sa parang kinumutan natin itong lalagyan na to with a lot of carbon. So, hindi na siya nakakasingaw, no? Palabas. So, umiinit. Yun ang nakikita natin ngayon, umiinit. Ibig sabihin lang nun, there's a lot of energy in the atmosphere. And that has to be released somehow. It can be released through just a gentle, in a gentle way, no? Yung lumalakas na yung hangin, o pwedeng dramatic, no? Tulad itong mga bagyo. At ito nga nakikita natin na tumitindi yung hangin at pati yung tubig. Kasi nga, mas mainit, di syempre, yung singaw ng tubig mula sa lupa, sa dagat, nandun nasa taas at babagsak din yan balang araw. At ito yung nakikita natin ngayon.
So, Father, lahat ng ito, is it correct to say na, yun nga, nung panahon ko, nung kabataan ko, wala pa mga ganito, pero because of yung global warming, talagang patindi ng patindi yung mga bagyo. So, merong connection po talaga yung global warming, climate change sa mga bagyong ito.
Yes, may sinasabi namin parang may risk multiplier, no? May dagdag. May dagdag na sipa. Kasi meron namang bagyo dati-rati. In fact, we have yung Yolanda noong 2013 sa Manila Observatory noon, panahon nila Father Corona, nila yung mga sinauna nating mga Jesuita. There was a similar typhoon in Tacloban also, 1912, no? 100 years ago. And it was also destructive. Not as destructive as this time around. So tumitindi. We will probably see the same number of typhoons every year.
Yeah.
Pero yung tindi niya, no? Yung intensity or the fierceness of the wind the probability is going to increase. The likelihood of these category 4 and 5 storms will increase. Yeah.
On the other hand, Father, you have yung uso na rin ngayon yung wildfires. Pati Indonesia meron na rin. Yung heat wave recently sa Europe, grabe
Sa China.
And then of course drought. So on the other hand, ito pong mga phenomena na ito, konektado rin po ba ito?
Oo. Hindi natin naranasan dito gaano kasi La Nina tayo. Pag La Nina medyo hindi tayo mainit, no? Pero pag nag-El Nino tayo, mararamdaman din natin yung init. Pero yung summer sa iba't ibang lupalop ng ating mundo ay naging grabe, no? There were parts in China this last summer. By summer, June, July, no? June, July, August. Usually yung summer. Umabot ng 44 degrees.
Wow.
At natuyo yung mga lawa at mga ilog. At pag tagtuyot, edi madaling masunog yung kahuyan, no? At nangyari yon. So hindi lang natin naririnig, no? Kasi nasa China siguro sa iba't ibang bahagi ng daigdig. But when you have a lot of heat, the water will rise and will go elsewhere. Hindi naman ibig kasi ang hangin laging gumagalaw eh. Hindi man pwedeng kahit na umakyat babagsak yung baseyo. Hindi. So yun rin ang ating dapat pagkabalahan din natin yan kasi alam natin, Hunyo, darating na yung ulan. Yun ang nakagawian natin. Paano kung bumuhos ang ulan sa ibang parte ng daigdig? Gusto natin na mahulog sa atin, lalo na kung sa ating mga palayan, di ba? for our
Mhm.
agriculture. But what if it moves elsewhere? And so that's why we have to prepare, either for a drought scenario or for an extreme flooding scenario.
Mhm.
Yeah, into extremes.
Father, the last time we invited you, the last time you guested in our show, you were talking about yung ano nga po deadlines, yung window of opportunity para uh, hindi
Yes.
maging devastating yung mga susunod na taon, ano. So ano pong update doon? Are we able to
Well, wala pa naman kasi we are still in the runway.
Mhm,
Diba?
mhm,
Or we want to know what's going to happen from now till about 2030. Ang goal kasi is by 2050, sana na ibaba na natin yung ating carbon emissions. No?
mhm,
Sana nga zero kung pwede. And there are countries that have pledged, countries like China, sabi nila, sige 2060, hindi namin kaya by 2050, baka pwede 2060. So nagtatawaran pa.
wow.
Pero to get to that means that you have to peak. Your emissions have to peak sometime this decade by 2030. So yan ang tinitingnan natin ngayon. Yung iba nagsasabi, hindi kaya. Hindi kaya. Ang iba naman nagsasabi, hindi, pwede pa. May posibilidad pa. So ako naman, ayokong pumanig sa mga nagsasabing wala na tayong pag-asa. Kasi, I think we need to continue hoping. Because if it's we have to be wary of self-fulfilling prophecies, di ba?
Yeah.
By that, I mean, pag sinabi mong hindi na, edi,
Di wala ka nang gagawin.
wala ka nang gagawin.
Yeah.
Lalo lang magiging masahol, di ba?
Correct.
Ah,
Pero Father, parang pag may tawaran, parang so the deadline is movable, the goalpost is movable.
well, no, kasi this is where you bring in justice issues, di ba? Kasi fairness, issues of fairness. Kasi, syempre, countries like China or even ourselves, di ba? We're just beginning to grow. And therefore, we'd like to grow cleanly, of course. Pero we see that the burden really of bringing down these emissions is on those who have been throwing these emissions
Correct.
for decades.
The first
Since-
world countries, di ba? Sila yung nag-exploit eh. Diba?
Yes, yes. Sila they grew at the expense of the environment.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
historically, really the burden is on them. So
Parang yung Brazilian president, Father, di ba? Yung Amazons. On the issue of Amazons na itigil yung yung logging sa Amazon, sabi nung Brazilian president. Ngayon kami na ang nangangailangan, pinagbabawal nyo na sa amin, di ba? Pero nung kayo ang naglalaging dyan, of course, directed at yung mga first world countries, So, sabi niya, gagamitin namin yan, sa amin yan.
yes,
Father,
but anyway, okay.
So, yung primatologist, yan naman, kung meron palang primatologist Jane Goodall, Goodall, diba?
Without.
Pero,
yes, yeah.
Di ba sabi niya, she received an environmental award recently, last week. At sabi niya, I'd like to quote her, sabi niya, we are literally approaching a point of no return. So, siya, Father, medyo pessimistic. And she related, her experience sa Mongolia. Siyempre, ang concern niya yung mga, yung mga unggoy, di ba? Kasi yun yung pinag-aaralan niya. Pero sabi niya, they were losing their home because the people in Mongolia were cutting down trees so that they can convert them into, di ba, yung charcoal and of course, sell. So, yun yung sabi niya, yun yung problema raw eh.
Well, surely, we've crossed several tipping points. As far as the climate is concerned, hindi ko alam kung ano yung mga tipping points na yon. Ang sabihin ng tipping point ay once you've gotten to this point, then konting tulak na lang, magsaslide ka na at kahit anong gawin mo, hindi mo na mapipigilan yung slide na yon.
Mm.
In I guess in biology
Yeah.
or ecology, there are certain things that will never come back. Diba? Once some species once they are extinct, I don't know how you can resurrect them. Maybe genetic engineering, ewan ko, no? Pero once they're gone, they're gone. And we've seen that also here.
Yeah.
But there are certain things like the changing of the ocean currents. Yun ang kinatakutan natin eh. Pag magbago yung galaw ng oceans, yun talaga sisirain niya talaga lahat. Hindi pa naman, malayo pa yon. Pero isang posibilidad pa rin yung ganon. So, yun ang minomonitor ngayon. Yung iba natawid na, pero yung iba hindi. Yung ibang tipping points hindi pa naman. At ito nga, we have this next few decades really to set things right. Yeah.
Pero totoo yan, Father, like when I was a child, I was able to visit Manila Zoo, di ba? Tapos parang mas koonti na ngayon yung mga animal species to marvel at pagbata ka pa, no? Kaysa, di ba? Ngayon kasi parang ang dami nga namatay ng mga species because of environmental changes. Father, last year, yung nabanggit ko sa inyo in our friendly conversations sa JR, yung I saw this documentary latest from Michael Moore, although this time he was just a producer, yung Planet of the Humans. And it became very controversial because he was saying that in that documentary na walang patutunguhan yung mga renewable energies. They presented, Father, yung mga nangyayari dun sa mga renewable energy sources. Like halimbawa, yung may plantation ng mga ano man tawag din, yung mga malalaking windmills na ngayon na sira-sira na, tapos yung mga solar panels sa, I think sa Michigan yun, parang 5 football fields of mga ganong klaseng panels na parang abandoned na rin, sira-sira na. So parang sinasabi niya na talagang as of now, the renewable energies or energy sources that we think will help us cope with or prevent global warming, they're not reliable. What do you think about that?
Well, for me, di ba, sa tunay na buhay, laging may trade-offs. So even, I acknowledge solar cells, batteries, di ba, that's going to be a worrisome waste problem.
Yes,
what to do with these things. Pero ako, I'm also hopeful that since we know these things already, we know the negatives, di ba? We can actually spawn new industries to recycle these things, di ba? Kahit na yung mga circuit board na tinatapon natin pag hindi mo na magamit yung telepono, nasa-salvage lalo na yung ginto. May ginto kasi yan eh. Ngayon, mahirap tanggalin yung ginto o yung copper, di ba? Mula dyan. Pero I hope that there will be entrepreneurs who will cash in on this bonanza of old solar panels. Just saying I guess lagi may mapipintas ka bawat technology, no? May mapipintas ka diyan, pero on the other hand, that can also spur us on to greater creativity. The alternative is what though? Yun ang kasi if you of course, people now are thinking nuclear, di ba? And even our own country, no? Ako, I'm worried kasi again, you're just kicking the can. Parang sinisipa mo lang yung lata sa further down the road. Let our children and grandchildren, wala tayong children, grandchildren, pero yung let the future generation worry about the waste. Diba? Parang sila na maglinis. Pero ngayon kasi kailangan natin Hero, I think that's irresponsible, no?
Okay.
And especially in a country that's really prone to earthquakes and volcanism.
You're referring to the pag-revive ng Bataan nuclear plant. Yeah.
Yes, or any. It doesn't have to be in Bataan. No? But I think if you ask the people in Bataan if they would like that to happen, I don't know. If they...
Yeah, they say no. Yeah, pinotesta nila yan. Pero Father, may nakita rin akong ad ng isang renewable energy enterprise. Sabi 30% na raw ng electricity ngayon ay through renewable energy sources. The target is by 2030 sana umabot ng 60%.
Tayo?
Hindi, Father, globally raw, globally.
No. Actually, kung
More?
globally nga, zero.
Zero pa. So
I mean,
siguro
zero yung
US,
carbon.
US siguro yun, Father, kasi napanood ko lang sa YouTube yung advertisement. So baka US.
The goal is net zero. And that is itself parang controversial kasi hindi talaga zero siya eh. Net. Meaning
Net.
may mga gagawin kang mga meron kang mga efforts to bring down whatever carbon is being emitted. You try to withdraw. You try to bring down through things like carbon sequestration or even simple planting of trees, di ba? Pero yun nga, ibig sabihin nun, meron ka pa rin binubuga sa labas.
Hindi ba, Father, can Earth heal itself? Parang yan yung mga sinasabi sa US, yung mga debate doon between mga naturalists and mga scientists, Earth can heal itself. It has healed itself time and again. Hindi ka naniniwala doon, Father?
Actually, an atmospheric scientist named James Lovelock, he had this hypothesis called the Gaia hypothesis. Gaia
is Earth.
Yes. So ang punto lang niya na Earth is able to adjust. Earth, if there's a shock, Earth is able to to adapt, which is true. It's we've seen that in its history, the last 4 billion years. Pero it will adjust. Pero ang tanong, nandito pa ba tayo?
It's humans who cannot adjust. So the Earth itself will survive, but human beings, that's questionable. If we can survive.
And other
yes, animal species.
Animal,
Father, dun sa isa pang controversial assertion dun sa Michael Moore Planet of Humans documentary is that yung ecological or environmental movement daw was already hijacked by corporate, by business interest. Like for example, yung mga Earth Day raw na yan, tingnan mo lang mga sponsors niyan, they are also the polluters or responsible for the pollution in the world. So, how do you react to that, Father?
Well, sa isang banda, masama. No? Sometimes we've heard of that term, greenwashing. Yung bang trying to clean your conscience by doing these efforts that have they're not lasting anyway. Yung marang ano lang siya, marketing or trying to parang tinataas yung sariling bangko. No? Pero alam nyo kasi, ang tingin ko rin dyan, we have to engage the private sector. We have to engage these big corporations kasi their footprint, their carbon footprint is actually really large. We just have to call them out if there is hypocrisy. Parang ano lang siya, their lip service, they pay lip service to these things. Yun ang takot rin kasi ang concern, pwede ang concern kasi bottom line lang eh. And they see that doing these green things increases their bottom line. Which probably, di ba, totoo. Pwede mangyari yun eh. Pero hindi talaga kusa at it's not lasting. And so that's why we have to be critical. And we have to also, I guess, try to reach out to those people. I don't like to demonize these corporations right away, but there are good people there.
Yeah.
and there are stake and stock shareholders, di ba? Who can probably influence the direction of these big corporations.
Conscientize them, di ba? Evangelize them. And, di ba, parang win them over.
Nangyayari na rin yun, ha? May mga activist investors, pumapasok sila, ini-infiltrate nila, tapos ina-hijack din nila. Kumbaga.
Yung mga hijackers.
Oo.
Yung Father, no, in one CBCP pastoral letter, the bishop said that the church will no longer, di ba, accept donations from companies that exploit the environment. Di ba? Yun, isang yun, yung sinasabi niyo, call them out, di ba?
Yes.
Pero I don't know kung nangyayari nga yun,
Yes. Well, I don't know if you've heard of the term ESG investing. E is environment, S is social, and G is governance. So these are investors who are looking at the ESG profile of a company. No, may record ba yan sa environment, sa social quality, yung kanilang mga manggagawa, 'di ba? Yung kanilang supply chain, their governance, how do they lead, no, themselves, yung board nila, etc., no?
Yeah.
And the money flows to where you have good ESG marks, but even that is controversial now kasi ang gulo eh. Sabi, how do you grade them, di ba? Paano mo gagraduan na ito magaling, ito hindi. Kasi yun na nga, hindi ganoon kasimple. Kaya nga there is a suggestion rin na ang dami naman ito, tignan na lang muna natin yung E, kahit na yung E lang, no, yung kanilang record, di ba?
Yeah.
Saka na muna yung social at yung governance kasi madaling bulahin din yun. Actually yung E madali rin bulahin eh. Pero maybe there will be concrete para bang metrics.
Pero dati Father, yung E na yan, yung people were conscious of that, to buy products that are environmentally friendly or coming from environmentally friendly businesses, di ba? Dati, nasa kaisipan yan eh, pero I don't know kung hanggang ngayon. Parang ngayon, ito nga po Father, my last point dun sa documentary ni Michael Moore, the others, yung sinabi nating yung corporate, the business hijacking, the movement, etc. The others are controversial, but this one point I parang find very agreeable. Yung sinasabi niya na in the end, it's all about consumerism. In the end, di ba? It's our wants that is killing this earth, so for example, yung during Christmas, Father, 'di ba? Christmas. Ang daming basura ang ang nanggagaling sa celebration natin ng Pasko, 'di ba? When we 'di ba, yung gift wrapper, etc., etc. And that's all we know that the most consumeristic time is always at Christmas time, 'di ba? Yes. So ang daming yung halimbawa gagawa raw ng laruan na bibili ng bata after 1 week sira na yung yung laruan, tapos ibabasura na. So it's really all of this consumerism. Ano po yung tingin niyo diyan?
Well, actually the root of the problem is well, the maraming roots pero one root is really cultural. And it's our attitude towards nature, towards ourselves, but in fact, it's good that on this feast of Francis Assisi, that we re-examine what is it that really makes us happy. And I think Francis reminds us you don't have to have so many things to be truly happy. In fact, there is happiness in being simple. And so, yung mahalaga yun. Kasi these companies who make these products, they will always, in a way, they will try to shift the blame to the consumer.
Yeah.
And there is some, di ba? They're justified in a sense. Na, gumagawa, I'm just responding to your wants, not to your needs, to your wants. So I'm making what you want. And if you can regulate the want, then probably they will not make it. But at the same time though, kasi nga, gusto rin nating sabihin na parang sa Facebook yan eh. Sasabihin ng Facebook, wala akong kasalanan. Kayo yung naglalagay.
Yes, yes.
Kayo yung naglalagay ng mga post ninyo dyan.
Yeah.
I am just providing the medium. But we're also seeing that the medium is also to blame, to fault,
Yeah.
di ba?
Yeah.
And so I hope that we see that this is both cultural and also economic, structural. Kailangan lahat tayo, hindi pwedeng pasa-pasahan lang. Kailangan magbago sa loob, pero kailangan rin baguhin yung sistema.
I like that, Father. I like that you say na ang problema talaga is cultural and spiritual. Di ba yung sabi ko nga sa inyo dati, more than yung documentary ninyo ni Vice President Al Gore, yung Inconvenient Truth, and we know that you were involved in the research for that. More than that documentary, mas nagustuhan ko yung kay Leonardo DiCaprio, yung The 11th Hour. Kasi yun nga, ang punto de vista niya nung documentary niya is ang kulang talaga yung spiritual. We have lost our connection with Mother Earth, di ba? Most people live in cities now, so they don't know forest, etc. Kahit sa Ateneo, di ba, nagugulat yung mga bata pag merong tour sa Bulacan, parang, uy, oh, there's a cow, di ba? First time na makakita ng tunay na baka, di ba? Pero we have lost connection with the earth. So, di ba, we only fight for those we love. Ay, nako, ang ganda nun.
Wow.
So if you do not know and love Mother Earth, so hindi mo siya ipaglalaban. So it's really spiritual and cultural.
Well, as Pope Francis would say in Laudato Si, di ba? Yung mga naisasalya, yung mga naihahagi sa gilid, sa tabi-tabi, ay ang mga mahihirap at ang kalikasan. Madaling malimutan. Hindi nakikita yung mukha ng mahihirap at hindi rin nakikita yung mukha ng kalikasan. Ano pa naman, we use mother to describe nature. Precisely because it's life-giving. Nature is life-giving. And totoo, sabi mo, na we sort of naging segmented yung di ba, yung pag kumain ako ng fried chicken, di ba, hindi ko na nakikita kung saan nanggaling yan, di ba? Ba't ko pa pagkakabalaan? At hindi ko na rin pagkakabalaan kung saan ko itatapon to kasi hindi ko naman makakain lahat eh. So we've sort of said, hanggang dito lang, di ba? Dito lang ako titingin. And I think this crisis has sort of invited us or taught us that it is important to look at the whole parang life cycle. These are all connected. And it's our disconnection that has caused this problem. Maybe.
Let's talk about that, Father, more in depth, spiritual. We've been referring to Laudato Si, of course, the Encyclical of Pope Francis, and last year I think it marked its 5th year, since its publication, Father. Para sa iyo, Father, sinasabi kasi nila na dun sa Kyoto ba yun? Even the leaders of the world were quoting from Laudato Si, they would refer to Laudato Si. Sa iyo, Father, what's the genius or what's the major contribution of this encyclical of Pope Francis?
Well, I think it is to, as I mentioned, it is to remind us of what it is to bring to our consciousness the peripheries, the social peripheries and ecological peripheries, and they're related. They're also connected, di ba? And kita rin naman natin yan kahit dito sa Pilipinas saan ba yung mga mahihirap nandun sa mga hindi gaano matataas yung value ng lupa, di ba? Malapit sa basurahan. Saan mo nilalagay yung basura mo? Sa labas, di ba? Sa mga payatas ng mundo, doon mo ilalagay. At ayaw mo na maamoy, di ba? Yung ganon. And so the link between environment and poverty is also strong. It's That's one. I mean, that's one of the
Yeah.
genius na it's again reminding us that there is, I mean, a connection between social poverty and environmental poverty. The other thing is, I don't know, for me, what struck me was he mentions this phrase, social love. No, social love. Love, usually we think of love as, interpersonal, diba? Love your neighbor,
Yeah.
or love God, transpersonal, no? Pero she mentions parang the love of large classes of people, social, eh? Or it's a bigger in terms of scale, bigger kind of love, that even works for the transformation of structures, working at the level of the UN, of multilateral agencies, di ba? Kailangan rin yun, and that's a form of love. Kasi nga, sa totoo lang rin, kailangan talaga ma-impluwensyahan. We need to, we need to scale up in a way. And there are people who have the power, diba, to make those things happen. I'm not just thinking of UN, no. I'm thinking also of even corporate leaders, diba? Isang pirma lang, mababago mo yung, diba? Mababago mo lahat. O marami kang mababago. Sabihin mo lang. And sometimes we ask, is there political will? Well, yeah, it can be government, it can be private sector, it can be sa simbahan, civil society. So yun rin, social love, para sa akin, kailangan din yun.
Yeah. Father, does the Pope in that encyclical point to root causes of the environmental problem that we are facing? And secondly, parang ano yung nire-recommend niya pong solutions? Aside from yung nabanggit yung social love.
Yeah. Well, that's also where he mentions again, and it's not just in Laudato Si, but even before Laudato Si, he's been keen on telling us that the environmental crisis is not just a physical, scientific crisis; it's a spiritual crisis. In other words, we've forgotten who we are. We've forgotten God. And from the point of view, para mula lang sa punto de vista ng pananampalataya, di ba? I mean, we are created in the image and likeness of God. So kung nalimutan mo na yon, nakalimutan mo na rin yung sarili mo, nakalimutan mo na ang Diyos. At nakalimutan mo na yung tahanan mo, our common home.
Yes. And we always say that in Genesis, the first book of the Bible, di ba, naatasan tayo to be co-stewards of the whole of Earth, di ba? And so yun yung trabaho natin, and yet rather than being stewards, we have become its abusers, exploiters. Yes. So Father, kung spiritual ang problema, since tayo pong mga nasa simbahan, ang kumbaga ang pastol, 'di ba? Ang kumbaga we're supposed to be leading our people, our congregations to 'di ba, to prayer, etc., to spiritual matters. So malaki po ang expectation sa simbahan, therefore.
Yes, of course. And kaya lang, di ba, we're sort of latecomers in this. I mean, by we, I mean the Catholic Church. Our Christian brothers and sisters, nandun na sila noon pa. Pero okay lang yon, di ba? Kahit na late, kahit na 11th hour, kumbaga, marami pa tayong dapat gawin. It's ano rin eh, di ba? It's sad because if you're Catholic, then material reality is important to you. Diba? Sacraments, diba? Bread and wine. Minsan nga, yung sinasabi natin sa misa, which earth has given, human hands have made. This bread, this wine, galing to sa lupa. Alam na, sinasabi natin yun, bawat misa. Pero parang ang layo ng lupa. Diba? And we've made this. Yun rin ang gusto kong sabihin, na ang atas sa atin ay hindi lamang protektahin, kundi payabungin pa, no? To develop also. Kasi hindi sapat lang na hayaan natin eh. Pag hayaan mo ang isang hardin, masisira din yan. Kailangan mong diligan, kailangan mong alagaan, kailangan may pagsisikap, may input, may human input, human hands have made. No? Kasi that's our, para bang, in a way, it's our mandate as co-creators. Co-creators. Malaking bagay yun na hindi lang ako taga-enjoy ng binigay dito. Meron akong responsibilidad na bungkalin yung lupa. Kasi kung hindi ko bubungkalin, walang tutubo.
Pero Father, payabungin in an environmental friendly way. Kasi naisip ko tuloy pag sinabi mong ang simbahan may responsibilidad na hindi lang protektahan kundi payabungin pa ang ang creation. Naisip ko yung mga Jesuita sa Australia na merong winery.
Hindi. It's really to remind us that kasi love God and love neighbor. Di ba? Sasabi natin. Saan dun yung kalikasan? And actually, nandyan ang kalikasan lang pag nagtanong ka ng, saan? Saan yung aking kapwa? No? Saan siya nakatira? Where is my neighbor? Then you will realize that, your neighbor can be in all sorts of places. Can be in the peripheries, can be in the center, di ba? And then, and that neighbor of ours is sustained by nature, as we are sustained by nature. So to care for our neighbor, to love our neighbor, is to love this environment that feeds us, that sustains us, our mother.
Wow, ang gandang homily yan, Father, for the parable of the Good Samaritan, who is my neighbor, di ba? Which was the gospel reading yesterday. So, sayang, ano? So, Father, kailangan ma-involve ang simbahan. And it's been 5 years since Laudato Si, 6th year na nga ngayong taon na to. Do you think we've been up to the task?
Ay,
May
sorry. Hindi ko
nakikita ka
alam.
bang hindi mo alam? Ang alam ko, Father, in fairness sa mga archdiocese, dito sa Archdiocese of Manila, for example, active sila sa pagbibigay ng mga seminars on Laudato Si.
Yeah. Well, yes, I've been also invited many times, and even on the education front, among Catholic schools, there are such things as Laudato Si schools.
Yes.
Diba? We're encouraging schools to be one. May mga criteria lang na kailangang sundin. So meron naman. In fact, I think, I'm sorry, sabi ko lang hindi ko maisip offhand, pero may mga, there are efforts.
Yeah.
Even to change their, diba? Their own ESG. Kumbaga, ang simbahan may ESG rin eh. Ang bawat parokya, tinitingnan nila yung kanilang ESG footprint. So, anyway.
Okay, Father, in terms of solutions, let's talk about further about solutions. Si Bill Gates, Father, yung kaibigan mong si Bill Gates.
Ano ka?
Si Bill Gates wrote a book, parang how to prevent climate disaster, ano mga pinagsasabi niya doon, Father?
Actually, maganda naman yung libro niya. Nabasa ko rin. Salamat. Ikaw ang nagbigay sa akin ng libro. It presents the problem. Okay, I guess the first half, and then the second half it presents solutions. And at one part nga, he says, hindi ganun kasimple. No? Halimbawa, kunyari, mag-solar or wind ka, yung intermittency, yung sinasabing kasi pabugso-bugso lang naman yung hangin at umaaraw lang naman pag araw, pag gabi wala, di ba? Yung mga ganun. So, na mahal ang baterya. And he also opens the possibility of these modular reactors, no? These new reactors. Kasi nga, ang puna niya na yung nuclear energy, yung mga nuclear plants ngayon, 1950s pa yung technology, no? Parang hindi na umusad. So, he's advocating for this. And sabi ko, okay lang sa akin yun. Kaya lang depende kung saan mo ilalagay yung nuclear, di ba? Huwag mong ilagay sa isang lugar na maraming lindol. I think because of Fukushima in Japan, we've learned that lesson, di ba? and I think even Germany. Ang France ngayon kasi maraming nuclear, no? Ibang klase ngayon, yung problema ngayon sa Europe talagang grabe kasi nga because of the Ukraine-Russia war, no? But anyway, ang gusto ko lang doon sa libro na yun nga, it presents the problem and presents some solutions. Yun ang rin gusto ko sa kanya kasi nga, hindi lang nasasabihin na, we have a problem. Ang concern ko na lang ay, well, if maybe for the Philippines, the nuclear option might be problematic, will be problematic. And as far as batteries and others renewable technologies are concerned, well, I think we just have to keep on trying. Kung mahal, di gawin nating mura, di ba? Paano magiging mura? Well, economies of scale. Pero kasi ngayon parang naghahanap pa parang wild west pa ngayon So mahal lahat, di ba? Sinasabi ko sa mga estudyante kasi nga yung ballpen, nung unang ginawa yung ballpen, mas mahal pa yan sa fountain pen No, kasi iilan lang yun Pero nung dinamihan natin, di ba? Medyo bumaba yung presyo. Pati yung compact disc, nung unang ginawa yung CD, ilan lang mga, di ba? Gusto pa natin yung tape o plaka Pero, I don't know, through some financial engineering, I don't know, di ba? Nagawang mura. So,
economies of scale. Nagmumura pag mas marami.
Yes, pero yun nga, hindi natin alam kung ano yung magki-click pa Anong technology yung magki-click. Kaya ganoon. But anyway, so
is he optimistic, Father? Is Bill Gates optimistic?
Well, first of all, solution-wise, no, it's not just bringing down carbon. And I'm glad he also devotes a part about adaptation. Dalawa yan Adaptation is really adjusting to the new normal, kumbaga, of a warmer world. What do you do? Kasi even if you start bringing down the emissions now, may buwelo no? Hindi naman ibig sabihin na by 2050 kung mag-net zero tayo, lalamig ulit, mawawala na yung global warming. Hindi, tutuloy pa rin yan. Kaya mahalaga na maghandaan pa rin natin, no? Which means adaptation. He mentions that as well. I guess not as much, kasi ang hirap itong adaptation Pero kung tutuusin sa Pilipinas, sa atin mahalaga to. Mahalagang paghandaan ang mga category 4, 5 storms o yung mga tagtuyot o yung mga baha. And kasi madalas, di ba, parang uwido Parang kaya disaster preparedness is part of adaptation.
Okay. Father, si Bill Gates last month sabi niya na he was in the top 10 billionaires of the world pero bumaba yung kanyang yung kanyang ranking kasi sabi niya I don't care because I will be donating a lot to various causes, sabi niya so and sabi niya because everything I have came from the people yung bumili ng kanyang mga Microsoft products, di ba? So sabi niya I'm just giving back and I hope the other billionaires would also follow suit So Father, mag-apply na tayo ng funding for for projects sa Manila Observatory. Seriously, Father. Okay, so let's talk about the Philippines. So sunod-sunod po yung bagyo at binabaha na po ang maraming mga bayan dito sa Pilipinas. Noong pong bagyong Sikarding, I think 90 barangays in Pampanga were underwater. So parang saan ka pa pupunta? Lahat na lang binabaha, Father. How as an environmentalist, paano niyo po nakikita yung problemang yan? What's the solution? Yeah.
Una-una, kahit nung malapa tayo, may bahana. There is such a thing as floodplains, di ba? And halimbawa, Marikina, di ba? Or the low-lying areas. I mean, those are low-lying, I guess, precisely because they were inundated before, even before we came into the picture. So I think mahalaga dito. Sinasabi ko lang, mahalaga yung zoning.
Zoning.
Huwag kang magtatayo. Di ba? Pero kung magtatayo ka man, dapat alam mo na may peligroso yung lugar na yon, no? Kung magtatayo ka sa tabing ilog o sa tabing dagat, di ba? Alam mo na every so often there will be storm surges.
Yeah.
There will be a overflowing of the river banks, di ba? So, ang mahirap lang minsan sa atin, ang solusyon natin engineering di ba? So umaapaw yung ilog. So ano gagawin natin? Tayo tayo ng dike, no? Semento. And so what we do is we make them straight or try to make the water go out faster to drain it. Nangyari sa New Orleans nung Katrina, grabe. The water went over the walls. No? And then it flooded New Orleans. Ngayon, iyan sa Florida, people, 2 million people without power? Ang punto ko lang, nature-based solutions. We look at may dahilan kung bakit yung ilog paikot-ikot hindi diretso. No? And so we hope that we will not just look to concrete, to semento. Yun ang kung bumaba ang Metro Manila, mas ngayon di ba dati-rati kasi nung panahon namin ang pagbagyo, yun. Ito kahit ulan lang nawawala yung klase. Because of the flooding.
Yes.
Nasemento na natin kasi nasemento hindi na siya kumbaga nawala na yung yung percolation, yung sponge effect, di ba? Na
wala nang pupuntahan yung tubig.
Yep. So yun. So the baha is actually a human invention.
Okay. Wow, quotable quote yan The baha is a human invention. Paggagawa ko ng t-shirt niyan. Parang yung dun sa elections yung sinabi mo, yung 10 commandments, 3 pa lang, etc. Pero ito, the baha is a human invention.
We have a say actually in how the water will flow. And that means studying really how the water flows through a city. I think it was Dr. Ando Siringan sa UP. I remember some years ago, he pointed out, kung titignan mo yung mga estero natin, di ba? Yung mga, parang mga ugat yan ng Pasig. Natabunan na May dahilan kung ba't may estero, di ba?
Correct.
Daluyan yan ng tubig Kung tatakpan mo, if you will build over it, the water will go elsewhere.
May news item, Father, na I don't know if this is worrisome, last week din, yung sea level daw sa Pilipinas rising 3 times faster than the global average. Have you seen that news article?
Yes, and I pointed that out. Actually, kahit noon pa man, we were already seeing that the Western Pacific, the levels in the Western Pacific grow. They rise much faster than the global average. Hindi naman kasi yan uniform. Pag sinabing 1 meter sea level rise, ang prognosis, halimbawa 1 meter, hindi big sabihin nun na lahat naman tayo 1 meter. So if you look at the geographic differences, you will see that there are some places hindi 1.5 lang. Pero tayo 3.
Bakit nga, Father? Bakit yun?
Well, I can only guess, pero the waters here are much warmer in the Western Pacific, and if you have warm, you have greater expansion of the water. Tapos yung hangin, the winds that brought Magellan in the first place to the Philippines, those winds that come from the east, diba? They pile up the water.
Wow.
On this part of the basin. This is kung isipin mo, isang basin yung Pacific, parang mas mataas dito sa
So that adds to the flooding problem of the Philippines.
Yes, especially if you're along a coastline.
Wow.
And you'd have to worry. This is something also they're only finding out. if the sea level rises, the groundwater also rises.
Mhm.
No, aside from it being ito, kasi may ano yan salination, di ba? Aalat yung fresh water mo kasi papasok na yung dagat eh. So tumataas siya. So the flood risk is actually higher.
So dapat pala, Father, maganda na tayo, gumawa na tayo ng mga bangka, mga Noah's Ark. Each family should be ready.
But I advocate water storage, water impoundment.
Mhm.
The biggest water storage tank is a forest, di ba? So protect the forest because that's your storage, that's your water tank. Kasi nga hindi natin alam eh. They regulate the baha also.
Yeah.
Di ba?
Yeah.
And they also store your water.
Diba especially yung experience natin kay Carding, takot na takot ang Metro Manila, but Sierra Madre, diba, protected us from the storm and the baha. Yeah.
Yeah, it had a breaking influence. Pero natawa ako kasi tinatanong saan daw yung Sierra Madre? Saan daw siya nung
Saan sa nung undoy?
Oo, saan siya nung
Father, mag 100 days na po ang ating pangulo, ang ating bagong pangulo sa kanyang pwesto sa October 8, it's his 100th day in office. Pero so far po he appointed Miss or Dr. Tony Loizaga from Manila Observatory, right?
Yes,
so
yes.
What does that signal you, Father? Does that parang augur well for our environment?
I'm very hopeful with Tony at the helm. In fact, we're meeting next week. The DNR, DNR has invited. Hindi lang kami, UP and all other, even the private sector. So I'm glad for this initiative. It's the government bringing in civil society, diba? Bringing in the private sector to a forum. So I think that's a good move. Because we have different perspectives and we have to come to the table, and who else better to bring us to the table than a leader in government such as Tony. So I'm hopeful. Na-confirm na siya. So
yes, she was confirmed.
Yeah, so I'm really happy for her, and we'd like to contribute, we'd like to help bring in, well, from our point of view, science, at least. So
at least na hurdle niya na po yung hindi na hurdle ni Gina Lopez yung commission on appointments. So now she can really do whatever she wants now that she's been confirmed. So Father, of course, sinasabi rin ni DBM na he is open to the Bataan nuclear plant. Diba?
Yeah.
So yun lang. So yun yung mga abangan natin but it's too early to tell Father kung ano yung magiging environmental program po ng ating bagong pangulo. Pero Father, tanong ko, if you were to advise President BBM just one thing for our environment, for the protection, safeguarding our environment, what will that be? What will be your priority? What will be his priority?
Hirap naman, no? I would say, as I mentioned a while ago, water storage, which is not just really for drinking, but even for agriculture, diba? Let's look at the water, and then because that also feeds us. Then let's look at energy, which means let's stop, because we're so rich in natural sources of wind and sun. So let's stop these alternative technologies, and it's already happening naman but yun, I think then we also need to look at our cities, the land, the way we use. So it's energy, land, water, I guess. The land is so crucial, really. That means pag sinabing land, hindi lang parang zoning, but looking at housing,
Yeah.
and where we
Mm.
put people and our resources, mahalaga yon.
Yeah.
And to have the political will to actually enforce these decisions.
Yes. Ngayon po, for example, ina-advocate ng maraming NGOs ngayong land use bill para maprotektahan yung mga forest reserves, reservation so water, land, energy malagang tingnan. So Father, ito when we talk about environment, maraming tao raw parang yun nga yung sinasabi nyo kanina na parang nagpapanik dahil hindi nila maintindihan yung problema. So parang if you were to advise them, Father, ano yung magagawa natin? Diba? Dati kasi ganadong-ganado yung mga tao, 'di ba? Yung nag-garbage this separation, etc. Tapos biglang parang nag-dip yung energy ng mga tao kasi parang with all the talk about the deadlines, 'di ba? Kulang pa pala yung ginagawa natin. So parang desperate. Anong masasabi niyo, Father? Ano magagawa ng isang ordinaryong tao?
Yeah. Ako yun nga, first, wag tayo mag-panic kasi let's be wary of self-fulfilling prophecies nga. Pag nalula tayo at nakita natin na kahit anong gawin natin, wala naman mangyayari. Wala tayong gagawin. At lalo lang lalala, diba? Ang problema. So, wag tayong mag-panic. Umasa pa rin tayo na makakaahon tayo. Hindi pa tapos. There are uncertainties, yes, pero I think our attitude matters. Kung ano itong, di ba? What if I mean, have faith also in ourselves that we can do something about this, even if locally or personally. Ako, tingin ko lang, for example, anong pwede natin gawin is just to simplify. Especially now on this feast of Saint Francis, di ba, of Assisi, wag tayong waldas. There's so much wastage, and the richer we become, actually, the more waste we generate. You've heard of this expression, di ba? Live simply so that others may simply live. That's true. Where do we spend our money on? So I hope that we'll just be more circumspect, more wise in the way we use our resources. So in simple way, kahit sariling tahanan, sariling bakuran, linisin, simplihan, and then work with others. Kasi hindi naman tayo talaga nag-iisa. We have kindred souls also worried and also working to change the way we've run the world. So yun lang.
Wow. So may iba pang t-shirt akong gagawin. Kanina sabi mo, 'di ba, the baha is a human invention. Ngayon, simplify. Such a very good advice, Father. Father, thank you so much.
Walang anuman. No. Hanggang sa ulitin.
Hanggang sa ulitin po, Father. Thank you for the updates and for giving us hope in this environmental work that we need to do. Thank you so much, Father.
Ingat.
Yan po, mga Katipuneros, si Father Jose Ramon Vilarin of the Society of Jesus. He is the director of the Manila Observatory and chaplain sa Loyola Schools po dito sa Ateneo de Manila University. Please pray for him, his health, and his ministry. And that's it, my dear friends. Yan po, simplify. Yan, simplify. That's one solution we ourselves can do para po sa ating inang kalikasan. Hanggang sa susunod po, mga Katipuneros, this has been the Jesuit Hour and your host, Father Noel Alfonso Este. Have a happy lunch, everyone. Bye-bye.